One of the most evocative effects that you can add to your terrain is fire damage and burn marks. And with the two-step dry brush technique, it could not be easier to do. And yet, no one crafting terrain on YouTube ever really seems to do it. Well, in this video, I show you how to paint char, ash, fire damage, and burnt terrain, as well as how to build, detail, and paint these ruined cardboard shacks. I've shown this technique a few times already. In my cardboard Mordheim wooden ruined scrap bridges video, and in my cardboard Mordheim ruins video. And it is as simple as a black dry brush, and then a lighter dry brush with a white or off-white to pick out the charred edges. And so aside from emphasizing the technique of how to paint the burnt damage, the burnt wood and fire damage, this is also a video where we're going to make a build inspired by the Mordheim Exploration Chart, a series of events and possible things you can find while playing a game of Mordheim that I use as inspiration for pieces to make on my tabletop. Today we're making Ruined Hovels, and I'm interpreting this as ruined and burnt down wooden shacks that will look great on your table and bring a sense of dread and danger to your games. I started the build by making a base, and this base is going to be integrated into the piece itself. So, starting with a rectangle of cardboard and some strips of wood texture cardstock cut into various lengths, we will begin by putting down floorboards on the base. I like to use different lengths of the floorboards and to randomly stagger them to give a more interesting look. After the base is done, we will need some double-sided wood-textured cardstock. This is what we're going to use to build the walls and the roof of our ruined shack. I cut it out into little planks, 1.5 inches tall for most of them, and then a little over a centimeter wide, a little over 1/4 of an inch wide. This build is based on my very first video of how to make a cardboard shack, so I'm going to use the same dimensions and the same slanted roof. So we'll also need some planks that are 2 inches high to represent the front and then the slant of the shack. Now as it's ruined, we won't need very many of the 2 inches high parts, but we will still need some. I found that the best way to start this was to start at the corners and then build on from there, because it gives each plank that you put down more than one connection point. Because we don't want it to just be connected to the base, but if it's connected to the base and to another plank, then that makes it easier for them all to hold on. So I'm starting by building the front of the shack with our 2-inch high planks. And I've got some ruined bits of corners from the first ruined shack I made as my test piece. We'll draw on a doorway and fit that on there wherever you like, really. I just sort of picked out a random spot on it. And then after the doorway mantle, I don't know anything about doorways, was put in place, I filled in the rest with little bits and planks and built out the rest of the doorway. Now we want to have some of the roof intact so that miniatures can climb up and stand up on it. That's always a really fun thing in terrain when you've got levels to things and verticality. But we also want it to be ruined, so we aren't going to need the 2-inch high planks for all of it. I used my original shack as a template, but basically you just draw a diagonal line from the 2-inch high boards at the front to the 1.5-inch high boards at the back, and that's really it. After that was in place, I ruined it up a little bit more by chopping off part of the doorway. I decided that would look good, and from there, we were just able to take little broken bits and random sizes of planks and fill in the rest of the walls. I've only seen a handful of burnt down buildings in real life, but to me at least, it looks like the fire and the damage can be very random, and you never really know like what parts will be ruined and what will be left standing. After that, I made the roof in the same way as the walls, putting some of the boards at an angle so that they look even more rickety and falling apart. and then used the tips of my scissors to finish chopping up and making more damage and broken pieces on all the random planks. Once you're satisfied with that, that's basically it for the build part of this project. This is a very easy, very fast piece of terrain to make that can look great on your tabletop. The test piece I made, the first ruined one, the first ruined shack, I literally made from start to finish on a lunch break, about an hour, and you can too. Because of how we made the base with our floorboards, and that the walls are made of double-sided wood texture cardstock, the only real thing left for us to do in the detail stage is to add any dirt anywhere you'd like. So I just dab down glue and sprinkle on dirt and sand, little stones. And after that, it's time for our priming of it. So I gave the whole piece a nice coat of black paint and Mod Podge mixed together. I think that's what I was using at the time. Other times I'll use just black paint mixed with water, mixed with white PVA glue. That's really all we need to really strengthen and protect it. After that, to prepare for painting, we'll give it an off-white dry brush, or a white dry brush, whichever paint you have, whichever you like to use. Once that's done, we are ready to paint. And I say this in most of my videos, but if you're here for the build, we don't have to paint these. This is some pretty cool looking terrain already. If you're someone, like I was, who's intimidated by painting, there's no need to stress over it. These look great already. However, if you're feeling especially bold, artistic, or possibly just in a manic episode, then grab yourself 1 or 2 shades of brown paint along with the black and white that we have already used, and get ready for the time of your life. I'm a much better painter now than I was in my first video of how to make cardboard shacks, and it is a case of less truly being more. What I mean is, with a thin layer of our brown paint, you can bring all of the wood to life, all of the wood grain that we made when we made the wood textured cardstock, all the little bits and cracks, the little creaky bits in between the planks, the unevenness. It all looks amazing with one little coat of paint. For some areas where you want maybe a little color variation, you can paint another thin layer of brown on the wood, and after that, paint some dark brown on the dirt. And anywhere you want to really dramatize and emphasize shadows, like under the roof, on the interior corners, and parts where the shack would be touching the ground, almost like an outline. Then we will make a tan paint by mixing together our brown and our white or off-white, and we'll dry brush the dirt and some random boards with that. We can make a gray paint and pick out the bigger pieces of dirt and little stones, and then finally we will paint on the fire damage and burnt parts of our ruined shacks. This is done very simply by taking a black dry brush and lightly applying it. Start off light, as it can go on very strong depending on how much paint you have on the brush. But we'll lightly highlight the edges on the inside and out of anywhere that you want to seem like it was burned down. So I did the walls, the roof, anywhere that felt right to me. And if you're careful in how you do your black dry brush, this will almost seem like a gradient, with the furthest tips, the farthest edges being the blackest parts, and then it very lightly blending in with the original color, the brown in this case. After you finish the black, we're going to take a very light dry brush of our white or off-white and use that to just highlight the edges and tips of the burnt areas to show the ashes left after the fire's destruction. What do you think, my friends? I'd love to hear your thoughts on my technique for painting fire damage and burn marks on your terrain. How do you show the kind of destruction and damage that your terrain has been through? And how do you get inspired? When it comes to Mordheim, finding something on the exploration chart means you found something unusual or extraordinary. And in our case, these are our ruined hovels, designed to show the destruction and squalor of the city of the damned. And for treasure hunters like ourselves exploring after a battle, we head down a street consisting of ruined hovels, many of which are leaning over at alarming angles. There's probably not much worth looting here, but there might be something to make it worth our effort. While both the technique and the build are very simple, these are some of my most endearing pieces of terrain. I even made a little burnt table just for funsies. And I love how they look on my own slightly less burnt gaming table. Thank you for watching, my friends, and take care until next time on Cell Rock Games.